Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now with the main headlines. London-based Mosque Muslim Welfare House distributes 500 meals to needy people. UN calls for new tool to find 100,000 Syrians missing. Footage circulating social media shows Hindu authorities demolishing mosque in Gujarat. UNICEF sounds alarm over fast-spreading cholera outbreaks in Africa. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear viewers. This is Yunus Dawood and you're watching Shia Waves live from Imam Hussein TV 3. Workers at the Muslim Welfare House Mosque in the British capital London intensify their efforts in the great month of Ramadan to provide as much as humanitarian assistance as they can. According to one of the organisers of this humanitarian campaign, the mosque distributes 500 meals per day throughout the great month of Ramadan to visitors to the mosque as well as to needy people. The organiser pointed out that the beneficiaries are immigrants and disadvantaged people, confirming that the numbers of those people are large although Britain is a rich country. He added that Muslim Welfare House is keen to distribute the Ramadan basket, which contains basic foodstuffs, to 120 needy families twice a week, since the beginning of the corona pandemic until now, and that the mosque had distributed 45,000 iftar meals last Ramadan as of 2017. Muslims in Britain reach about 2.8 million, that is 4.4% of the total population. Top UNU officials called for creating a new institution to help locate tens of thousands of missing Syrians and bring peace to their families, as the General Assembly debated on Tuesday the human rights situation in the country. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that as 13 years of brutal war and devastating earthquakes in February, Syria and its people deserve peace and to know the truth about the fate of their loved ones. Guterres also continued that the whereabouts and fate of an estimated 100,000 Syrians remains unknown, adding that people in every part of the country and all across divides have lost loved ones and who are missing, including family members who are forcibly disappeared, abducted, tortured and arbitrarily detained. Commending the courageous work of Syrian family victims and survivors associations and other civil society groups to chart a path forward, he called on the General Assembly to establish a new international institution. Activists has circulated on social media platforms a footage showing the damage of one of the oldest mosques in India's Gujarat, experienced after Indian authorities demolished it publicly. Activists and bloggers said in posts followed by Shia Waves agency that the ruling Hindu Bharatiya Janata Party in India continues its attacks on Indian Muslims, their mosques, homes and shops in the state of Gujarat in particular and in India in general. They also added the oldest historical mosque in the state has been demolished by the Hindu authorities in a dangerous denial of the sanctity of the house of worship that were built for the remembrance of the Almighty. They emphasized that such violations of religious rights and places of worship have become a systematic policy adopted by the authority in order to eliminate Muslims in the country. Let us remind our respective viewers of today's headlines. London-based Mosque Muslim Welfare House distributes 500 meals to needy people. UN calls for new tool to find 100,000 Syrians missing. Footage circulating social media shows Hindu authorities demolishing mosques in Gujarat. UNICEF sounds alarm over fast-speeding cholera outbreaks in Africa. Also tonight, Egyptian Muslim woman obtains an official permit allowing the adhan in New York neighborhood. Africa is witnessing an exponential rise in cholera cases amid a global surge. Cases recorded on the continent in the first month of 2023 alone have already risen by more than 30% of the total caseload reached in the whole of 2022. The UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, is calling for $171 million in funds to support 28 million people living across 11 Eastern and Southern African countries, which have been hit hard by the fast-spreading cholera outbreaks. The agency said that the worst cholera outbreaks to hit the region in years are now unfolding in Burundi, Ethiopia, Kenya, Malawi, Mozambique, Somalia, South Africa, South Sudan, United Republic of Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. The World Health Organization said cholera outbreaks are exacerbated by poverty, disasters, conflict, and climate change, consequences like extreme storms and flooding, as well as lack of access to safe water and sanitation. The threat of violence, rights abuses, military coups, and armed conflict remains pervasive in Africa against a backdrop of backsliding on democratic safeguards and rule of law, according to a Human Rights Watch report. And now we continue with some short news. The family of a Muslim teenager arrested and held in custody for almost 5 hours for being in possession of a pinky-sized Dhul-Fiqar sword-shaped pendant has said they are considering taking legal action against Greater Manchester Police for an unlawful arrest. Ryan Zaidi of Stretford, Manchester, and his 17-year-old friend were returning home from college when they were stopped and searched by the GMP transport unit. Ryan was also arrested for wearing a religiously symbolic pendant, which is particularly popular among Shia Muslims. Ryan believes the officers were looking for a reason to arrest them. "My pendant is a blunt 3 or 4 centimeter long and tugged inside my hoodie," he said, adding that many of the white commuters were not stopped, leading him to believe that he was racially profiled. Students at Maikala Community School in Wembley are being prevented from their obligatory prayers in school. Over 3,000 people have signed an online petition complaining about the behavior of the school, which currently provides no prayer facilities for the majority of the Muslim students who are Muslim. According to some reports, students have had their prayers interrupted by teachers and even given, in some cases, suspension. The online petition makes allegations that last Thursday, students were performing the obligatory prayers in schoolyard on prayer mats when a teacher approached them and told them to stop praying. The teacher allegedly said, "You need to leave your Islamic cultures alone. This is the West," before telling them they are not allowed to pray on a prayer mat at school and that detention would be issued of this if they were repeated again. One of the students praying was excluded, according to the petition. The Hindu nationalist right-wing government of the Bharatiya Janata Party in the southern Indian state of Karnataka made a decision to remove the 4% quota for the Muslim minority in employment and educational institutions. Media reports said that the decisions have been heavily condemned by political leaders and others, describing it as politically motivated ahead of the May election in the state. The government, after removing the 4% quota for Muslims, divided them equally among the predominant Hindu, Fukalaga and Ligayant communities in the state, which already quotas of 4% and 5%, respectively. The main opposition party, the Indian National Congress, has condemned the Karnataka government's decision, describing it as a politically motivated decision linked to upcoming elections, as the ruling BJP hopes to maintain power with the help of these two Hindu communities. At least 38 migrants from Central and South America died after a fire broke out late on Monday at a migrant detention center in the Mexican northern border of Ciudad Juarez, apparently caused by a protest over deportations. Reuters also reported Mexico's National Migration Institute lowered the death toll on Tuesday evening to 38 from 40, saying a visit to the city's hospitals where victims were being treated and had confirmed the lower number. UN spokesman Stefan Durak said in a statement that the Secretary General called a thorough investigation of the tragic event. Activists have frequently flagged concerns of poor conditions and overcrowding in detention centers as migration has risen. It is a difficult Ramadan for hundreds of Muslims displaced by the deadly violence in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. According to reports, some 500 Muslims are cramped together in makeshift huts in the displaced persons camp in the town of Munigi. Most of them have little access to food and water. They are among nearly 1 million people displaced since fighting between M23 rebels and government forces erupted last year. Egyptian Rana Abdul Hamid succeeded in extracting an official permit allowing the call to prayer over loudspeakers for the first time in the mosques of Astoria neighborhood west of Queens, New York City, USA. Rana and her mother Mona al-Baghdadi were the reason for raising the call to prayer in the streets of Astoria with the entry of the blessed month of Ramadan during the 5 daily prayers. Clear and audible as it happens in an Arab and Islamic countries, and an influential and unique scene that was documented by social media platforms and circulated with pride and joy. The young woman and her mother managed 2 days ago to obtain official permission to raise the call to prayer through loudspeakers in the mosques of Austria. And the mother expressed her joy at publishing a picture of Rana displaying the permit paper and commented, "Praise be to God, praise to be to Allah, the dearest, and Islam and Muslims. After 31 years in America, I wish I could hear the call to prayer in the streets." We have reached the end of today's Shia Waves show. Let's remind our viewers of today's headlines. London-based Mosque Muslim Welfare House distributes 500 meals to needy people. The UN calls for new tool to find 100,000 Syrians missing. Footage circulating social media shows Hindu authorities demolishing mosques in Gujarat. UNICEF sounds alarm over fast-spreading cholera outbreaks in Africa. Egyptian Muslim woman obtains official permit allowing the adhan in a New York neighborhood. You can view the latest news on Shia Waves website, and you can send news of your city or country to be published in our news agency. Contact us on the numbers at the bottom of the screen. This is the end of today's news. Thank you for watching, and we pray to Allah the Almighty to hasten the reappearance of the Master of our time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Imam Hussein Charity is giving you the chance to provide food baskets for destitute and impoverished families all over Iraq and Afghanistan. Each basket costs around £30, $35 roughly, and can feed a family of 4. The food basket contains essentials such as flour, bread, tomato puree, oil. They get different spices as well, salt, pepper.